Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Mapper here today with the finale of Yuukoku no Moriarty. So, 24 episodes in the making, although for most of you guys, you definitely probably feel that this is not enough. I've been getting tons of comments saying that, oh, it's so rushed, and how they're adapting tons and tons of volumes into just 24 episodes. 14 volumes, in fact, and that is actually quite impressive. I don't think I've ever watched another series that had I guess maybe Neverland, you could say, is also something that did something similar where they cut out a lot of the middle parts and whatnot, but regardless. So today we are getting the finale. Now, of course, whether or not the manga continues on, that remains to be seen. I do think that for all intents and purposes, though, the anime will be self-contained, so they will give us just its own ending here, right? Obviously, I made some of my predictions in the last episode, like, you know, considering that it draws inspiration from the original Sherlock Holmes story, The Final Problem, I think it's fair to assume that both Moriarty, William, and Sherlock, they will try to fake their deaths and whatnot. Sherlock for the purposes of protecting William, of course, and, you know, having that back and forth and going out in the blaze, if you will, right? And, who knows, living happily ever after? I'm sure that's something that maybe a lot of fans will, will have their own headcanons about. And obviously, we still need to, eventually link back with reality, right? They started this story still basing it off how, you know, we had these Sherlock Holmes stories told through the perspective of Watson and whatnot, and so we will presumably end up like that as well, with the Moriartys going down in history as the antagonists, as the bad guys, with Sherlock being the hero, the detective that solved the cases and whatnot. But, you know, how it's going to play out, let's get into the episode. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Alrighty. Right, just make sure I'm recording and all that. Setting the stage. I mean, we literally saw William meet with Sherlock. And his, yeah, there we go. This is the first time that William has been here, right? Because you're my only equal? Something of that sort. Or maybe the entire spiel about friendship. But, you know, regardless of what you guys are saying about friendship and whatnot, the idea that these two can become friends and so on and so forth is due to, you know, their respective intelligence levels, right? That they believe the other party is the only one who can truly understand them and are at the same level. At least that's how I perceive it anyways. I mean, obviously, I think there is some, we have to consider some of the moral qualities as well, right? You know, the morals that both of them try to embody and whatnot. You know, at the end of the day, it is still quite similar, right? William has professed that he believes people who are criminals should pay for their crimes, same as Sherlock as well. So, they're on the same page in that aspect and whatnot. But, you know, overall, I still feel like, you know, regardless, you know, these are all contributing factors to why they are friends, right? But I do, you you know, one of the major things, because you can have people with similar-minded morals, right? You know, like William's gang, like Moriarty's gang, the people that he put around him, and hey, Watson, you could argue, also has similar morals as well, right? But you know, what separates them, you know, William and Sherlock, from the others, is their intelligence and smarts. Okay. I believe in the original Sherlock Holmes stories, Sherlock decided to leave Watson behind and go for it himself. Similar to what happened with the entire Milverton thing. Yeah, see? Exactly what I was talking about, right? You know, they all firmly believe that they are criminals and they should pay for their crimes. So it's, even though you could argue the moral aspect, and that's obviously important, what stands out for those two is obviously this. Burn the whole house down. Deja vu. One has been left behind? Really? I don't understand though. Like, even if Moriarty does assume the responsibility for all the crimes that were committed, you know, he got rid of a lot of corrupt nobles, right? So wouldn't that negate everything that he did? Yeah, again, because of this, right? I'm having a worried grin on my face because, you know, after seeing like some of the community, those that go more towards the, the BL route and whatnot, it's hard not to think that way when looking at this anymore. But let's try to keep this pure and platonic, shall we? Well, and they're going to refuse, and then that's going to incite revolution. Oh, I actually kind of wonder, are they trying to draw inspiration from the Great Fire of London? Yeah, I seem to recall there was a historical incident. Oh, noblesse oblige. That is a founding principle of the nobilities. Oh. Actually appealing, not just a pure revolution. Huh. That took a turn I did not quite expect, honestly. But I mean, even from a purely utilitarian perspective, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, who are you rule over if everyone is dead and destroyed? So that's how he wants to unite the people, unite the country. Again, I'll have to take a look after this to see if the Great Fires of London happened around that time. Oh. Now they have to plunge to your death, eh?
市民がその階級の垣根を越え自分たちの町を守った。そしてロンドン中の負の感情は全てお前に集まった。人々にとってお前は悪魔だ、ヤング。だがまだ間に合う。この世で取り返しのつかないことなんて一つもねえんだよ。
そうやって君は僕を生にしがみつかせようと誘惑するんだね。悪魔は貴様だ、シャーロック！
ルイス、いいのかここにいて。
兄さんのことはホームズに依頼しました。命を救ってくれと。僕は見届けに来ただけです。あの二人の結末を。僕は兄さんとその理想のために。
I kind of wish we got to see like how Lewis and William came to Vito.
それで構わないと。でも兄さんは一人で死ぬことをこの世界に取り残されることが生きていても意味がないと思っていた。僕自身が僕自身に価値なんてないと思っていた。でも兄さんは
Well, I mean, they've probably been brothers all this time, but I guess more so like their origins and whatnot. Is he just going to... Yep, he's just gonna jump. Call back to the season 1 opening. They're both going to fall, right? Although, actually, honestly, this could go many different ways. Yep. I hope you had a backup plan, Sherlock. Or... Okay. Do you have... Right.
よく来てくれたね、ルイス。これまでの事件が物語としてまとめられたものだ。近々発売される。
Right. So we go full circle to the beginning of this anime, right?
本の中ではモリアーティ教授はかつてない巨悪として描かれているよ。
ワトソンさんも全てを理解した上で執筆してくださったんですね。
君たち三兄弟が英国のために命を懸けてくれたことを心より感謝する。弟が貴族院に飲ませた庶民院に対する貴族院の優越を撤廃せよという密約も君たちの計画あっての取引だった。
Wow, even
我がホームズ家と同じく英国に対して永大、その罪と罰を背負う一族となってしまったな。
ええ、僕たちはその罪を償うためにこうして生きている。
我が弟ウィリアムに計画を依頼したのはこの私。すべての席はこのアルバート・ジェームズ・モリアーティにあります。ウィリアムに代わって罰を受け、罪を償う所存です。責任の取り方にはいろんな形があるだろうが、自らより重い罰を課すとは彼らしいと思ったよ。そして彼だけではなく、皆生きてこの国
So that's how MI6 was built? Or MI5? MI6?
僕の決意に変わる。
Okay, so who was Lewis going to be?
ルイス・ジェームズ・モリアーティ、今より君に任せよう。生まれ変わった英国を守るために創設された。
Oh, so he is the leader of MI6. Okay.
兄さんが作ったこの美しい世界を綺麗なまま保たなければならない。それが僕の使命だ。
So did Sherlock and William really go off and just live happily ever after? Oh my god. Yep. Some cottage out in the countryside. Or whatnot, right? Switzerland, eh?
キルシュって酒だ。飲んでみてくれ。こんな田舎に仕事でもねえだろうし、追いかけてきたんですかい？いや、友達。どんな方で？そうだな。螺旋階段を見上げ
Oh.
そんなやつ。
But then they fall together, so what? What the hell? Oh my god. To be completely honest, I thought what happened was that, you know, they just disappeared together, right? And then I guess they could have done that, and then they said, okay, we need to not raise suspicions and so on and so forth. But anyways, let's talk more about that at the ending here. I'll see you guys after this. Well guys, there we go. That was the ending of Moriarty. I think most people should be pretty satisfied with this kind of conclusion, right? I mean, again, as an anime only for this, I think it, you know, it works in its context, right? I know that a lot of people are saying that it's rushed and whatnot, but I feel like through the past 2 episodes and whatnot, I could totally understand where the characters were coming from, right? And again, you know, going back to, okay, how come they didn't really animate the parts of the friendship between William and Sherlock and all that? you know, I really don't think it's needed. Everything I said in the last episode was pretty much summed up by the characters themselves in this episode, right? And everything I was talking about at the beginning here. How, you know, you could totally understand the sort of relationship, this very special sort of relationship that you know, formed between William and Sherlock here, right? And again, you could view it as, you know, the you know, friendship, bonds of friendship, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the thing that really bonded them together is actually, you know, the way that they view this world, how they're essentially a level across all others, right? Because it's very lonely at the top, right? It's very lonely to not be able to have someone else on your same level, with the same level of understanding and quick wits and intelligence and so on and so forth, right? And so that's what makes them so dear to each other, even though they are on like opposite sides of the situation, and even though they really don't have that much you know, that much activities in common, right? Like they don't really spend that much time together. The limited time that they do, you know, it's the quality that counts rather than the quantity, right? So I think it still works entirely in this context, and you know, it's a nice full circle. I think pretty much all of what I predicted actually happened here, right? With them essentially you know, both faking their deaths and whatnot, and leaving this. Although I was actually thinking perhaps Sherlock would still eventually come back, right? And then perhaps you know, they'll just sort of like work out something to allow Moriarty to never return back to England, right? And maybe that was the deal that he cut with the. Okay, so let me further say this. So I was actually thinking, because in the previous episode we saw Sherlock going to the Royal Crown and asking for some sort of compromise, right? So here it's revealed that, hey, it's actually just a major breakthrough for the sort of class division and whatnot there. So, you know, before that, I was actually thinking maybe the deal that he cut with the Crown was actually to spare William's life and allow him to be you know, to be exiled outside of Britain, but, you know, allowed to live his life, right? And I thought that maybe eventually you know, Lewis would join him as well, and they would be off, you know, to the other worlds, perhaps even to America or whatnot, to you know, to fight for freedoms and justice and whatnot over there of some sort. But I mean, if they wanted to do something like this, it kind of fits with the spirit of the original Final Problem, right? The original short story where Sherlock was supposed to be killed off alongside Moriarty and to end the entire series there. So, you know, something like this definitely works as well. And hey, they could, if they really want to, still allow him to be brought back in the future, right? So just saying that, oh yeah, we just spent a nice little vacation there and whatnot, and then eventually came back. So actually, when they were panning to the countryside at the very end of this episode, I was thinking that it was going to pan to like some small cottage house, you know, out in the countryside and whatnot, and you can see William and Sherlock living together or something of that sort. But I guess this makes perfect sense as well, right? And they don't want to go too overboard with the you know, to get to, you know, the stuff that the BL lovers would love. But I mean, I think they already hinted at, they've already given quite enough fan service as it is in this episode. So, you know, honestly, you guys should not be complaining at all in that regard. So as for the rest, I certainly wasn't expecting him to do this sort of fire to unite the people. And by the way, so the Great Fire of London, apparently that's happened like in medieval times and whatnot, so clearly unrelated with this as well. The fire that I actually had in my mind was the Great Fire of Chicago, which happened around the late 1800s, nearly at the turn of the century as well, with a similar kind of condition. Although for that one there was way more casualties and whatnot, but I thought it was drawing inspiration from you know, those kinds of fires, as well as the historical fires of London and so on and so forth. So that also answered my question as to how he was really going to unite the people, because here I was thinking, right, throughout these past years, he's been working behind the scenes to kill off these corrupt nobles and whatnot, and gradually his name was leaked out, right, that he was doing this, and sort of like a Robin Hood style kind of character, where he's trying to kill off all these bad nobles and help the good and whatnot. So I thought that, hey, by tarnishing his reputation here, wouldn't that completely undo everything that he tried to do before? Suddenly, you know, his entire character is put into question, right? Were the nobles that he killed really that bad, and whatnot? Did they deserve to die, and so on and so forth? So I was thinking that it kind of, you know, it runs in contradiction to everything that they did before. But I guess what they're trying to say here is that everything they did before, it wasn't really one continuous plan. They were just trying to wait until the day they could do something of this magnitude and change the country, I guess. So at least we got that explanation here. And then obviously, you know, the entire ending pretty much as expected, right? Watson still has to write the Sherlock Holmes stories. The original Sherlock Holmes stories were written in their perspective from Watson's perspective, so it completely ties in with that as well. And it also circuits back to the very first episode where we began the story from the little kid reading out the Sherlock Holmes stories, right? So, you know, that went full circle. Obviously, you know, with Bond and whatnot, he's going to be doing James Bond things. Lewis becoming the head of MI6, I certainly did not expect that, but I guess it makes sense as well, considering they already use so much James Bond stuff in here, so meh. And yeah, I mean, overall, I just feel like everything is a good, everything was neatly put away, right? And then, like, the confrontation scene between William and Sherlock and whatnot, you know, we also get some of the foreshadowings from the first opening with William dropping off of the tower and so on and so forth. So we get all that stuff added in there as well. Was there anything I missed or something that I felt was a little bit off? I don't think so. Honestly, the confrontation between Sherlock and William, I was actually expecting Sherlock to appeal more from a logical perspective, rather from a pure emotional perspective. But I guess this really works as well, right? You know, at the end of the day, you know, strip out all the logic and whatnot throughout it, you know, and go back to pure raw emotions. I guess, you know, from a story perspective, that also works as well, right? Although, you know, here's why I don't. Here's the reason why I thought that, you know, they weren't just going to go off to some other country or whatnot, and maybe, I don't know, maybe live out the rest of their lives there or whatnot, because obviously Moriarty still wants to atone for his sins, right? William still wants to atone for his sins. You know, you could say that it's for a greater good or whatnot. That still doesn't change the fact that he's killed a lot of people, and so on and so forth. So, how is that going to be done at the very end there? I feel like a party pooper for even asking this, but hey, I mean, I guess we'll just leave it unanswered, right? In any case, they are off at Switzerland. They are in mainland Europe, living, you know, who knows? Maybe one day they'll return back, maybe they won't, but in any case, that is pretty much it, right? So, that concludes this entire series. So, is there anything I want to say about the series overall? You know, it's definitely quite different from what I expected when I first came into here, right? I was actually expecting a series really following more of a detective story. Honestly, I don't feel like this is a detective story at all, right? You could say this is sort of like a drama, mystery, suspense, or whatnot, but it's definitely not a detective work. I don't think so. The way that Sherlock solves mysteries here, the way that the cases are presented and whatnot, I don't think really captures the spirit of detective genre. So really, it's not that as well. So I came into this expecting a completely different thing, and well, this is what I get. I mean, I do enjoy the sort of references to you know, modern day, like MI6, like James Bond, like Batman and whatnot, and putting all those in there. And when it kind of goes really crazy with some of its characters and some of the action parts and whatnot, I feel like that's also quite fun as well. Because if we're not looking at this from a detective perspective, we absolutely have to view it from a more entertainment perspective, right? So in that regards, I think it didn't do too bad. Obviously, the animation and sound, no big qualms there. It's just that, you know, it's just not really what I was looking for from this series. And obviously, it was much more. I actually thought that this series might be sort of like BL bait from the very beginning, but that's, to me, it's not exactly a big turnoff, and I think that it kind of walks the line where they drop just enough hints to be tasteful, but still not annoy those who aren't necessarily interested in this sort of work, right? So I think as someone who doesn't really watch BL works and whatnot, I feel like they pretty much walked a pretty good line there. This episode was the only one where you could really see a lot of the undertones coming out, but still, overall, I think it makes sense. Even from a platonic perspective, it makes sense. So, no big qualms from me there. Yeah, I guess in the end, the things that I do wish were done a little bit more was for the cases to maybe make a little bit more sense, right? I've talked at length in the various arcs, the various episodes and whatnot, when the progression of a case or the progression of something, I don't feel really makes a lot of logical sense. That's... And to me, this problem is twofold, right? I personally always review anime from that kind of regard, unless I know as trying to go completely crazy. That's the time when I would suspend my disbelief and put that to the side. But especially for a series that bears the Sherlock Holmes names and the Moriarty names, right? It's clearly taking inspiration from these characters, and it's not just a case of using their naming rights. They're clearly in the same occupations, right? Sherlock is still the detective, and Moriarty is still the bad guy, the Lord of Crime and whatnot. So, I guess I was expecting those cases and whatnot to be a little bit more tight. I can understand they go for the more entertainment value. That's not really what the anime is focused on, but I wish that regardless, they could have done a little bit more in terms of that respect, in terms of that regards, and I feel like that would actually also build up the sort of friendship between William and Sherlock more as well, right? Where we do get to see them utilize some very, very some very, very big-brained type of deductions and drawing on all sorts of different knowledge and whatnot in order to come to the conclusions and so on and so forth. It's like the entire time, I guess this is my main critical point of this, if any, and that is that I feel like throughout all this time Moriarty is put into too much of a commanding and godlike position here, right? We don't really see how he manages to do all of this. It's not just like a wave of a hand and, yeah, don't worry about it, I got everything covered. All according to my plan, I have not missed out on anything, right? And I guess the very end of the very ending few episodes is the only time where we really see him get tested. So I actually wish we could have had that even more, and to have this back and forth between Sherlock and Moriarty a bit more, so that it actually drives home the point that these two are clearly a level above everybody else, right? Whereas here, Sherlock, honestly, I said before, he really seems like a child compared to Moriarty when we're looking at a lot of these things that are going on and so on and so forth. So it kind of, I can get the ending of this based on how I know Sherlock 2 should supposed to be and what Moriarty has exhibited in this series, right? But if I was coming into this without understanding anything about Sherlock Holmes, without understanding anything about these original characters and whatnot, I think it would be definitely harder for me to get that kind of connection at the very end there, the sort of we're the only guys on equal footing with each other and that perspective. So, anyways, I think I've talked enough about the entire series. Thank you guys for coming along, and, feel free to check out my other videos and whatnot. I will be getting a what I'm watching for the next season up fairly shortly, and, well, I mean, obviously, you guys can check that out. If that's not to your liking, well, hey, no big deal. I hope I can see you guys sometime in the future as well. Hopefully one day when we have a chance to do a series, when I have a chance to series, that is actually mutually interesting to you guys as well. So, stay safe, guys, and hopefully I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.